Hi guys, it's Becca at So Darn Twisted, and today I'm going to be talking you through how I made this masterboard for my steampunk journal. I made it last night while I was just sat watching some stuff on the television and I posted it in the groups, the finished results that I made, and in a couple of the groups it was sort of suggested / requested that I make a tutorial on what I did, how I made it all grungy and, you know, yeah, just basically how I did it. So I thought, well, I wanted to make a second one anyway, so I may as well do a tutorial to make the second one. Makes sense to me. So that out of the way, I will talk you through what I used. So the first thing you're going to want is a base. Now, I tend to use, more often than not, join together book pages from books that I have rescued. I finally found a charity shop that was willing to sell me loads of books that had, you know, covers missing or were just generally too ratty to sell. So it's taken me months and months and months, but I finally found one. So yeah, you're going to need some base basically. Now you can use, if you've got some thick paper, you can use that, some, you know, sort of at least 120 GSM. I don't know what that is in pounds, but yeah, you're going to want something that's at least that size, really, at least, yeah, that weight. And basically, because what you need is for it to stay robust, because you're not necessarily going to be gluing onto every single little piece, so you don't want it to be flopping, because it's a mistake I made on my first masterboard. Was I actually, where I'd left gaps and I'd done it on just normal sort of copy weight paper, and if you're going to do that, that's fine, but you have to make sure that you really cover every single bit really well. So yeah, so some old book pages, old paper, the really thick packing paper, not the sort of flimsy powdery one that Amazon send out usually, but the sort of the thick one that's almost a bit glossy. If you use that one, it makes a really good substrate as well for it. So yeah, you're going to want, I'm going to do 6, I thought I'd pulled out 6 pages from there. Okay, so 6 pages gives you a nice, I know some people do absolutely huge masterboards, but I find them a little bit too overwhelming to try to do something that size all at once. So, and if I'm doing it, I have to just do it. I can't walk away, leave it, come back to it later. No, if I'm doing it, I'm doing it. So basically, for the purposes of this, we are going to need that. We are going to need scraps. These are exactly the scraps that I used on the board last night. This is just what I didn't use. I had a lot of scraps from my steampunk journal. So as you can see, there's just a myriad of all different things. There are some bits of Stamperia books. There are things I've printed out myself. There's some stuff I designed myself, and wallpaper, and yeah, there's just all manner of bits and pieces in there, really. So you're going to need all your scraps. You're going to need some ink. You're going to need a glue stick, and you're going to need some ink spray. You don't have to have the spray bottle. You can just use a toothbrush, pour a little bit of ink on there if you get the re-inking bottles and stuff like that, and you can just tip a bottle on your paint on your toothbrush and just kind of spatter it about that way. And you're going to want some stamping blocks and some stamps that suit your theme. So obviously the ones that I used yesterday are usually quite close to the front, apart from that one, because that one's got something to do with Christmas, so I don't know how it got there. I also overlaid some of it with parchment paper. If I can find some of the pieces where I did that, I don't know if you can see, but it kind of lowers the opacity of what's behind it and really shows up like the ink spatters and stuff like that. So I did that in a few places where I just kind of overlaid bits of it. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but you can see it really quite well in person. So that's another piece on the end there. So yeah, just gave it an extra bit of surface, an extra dimension, and something else when you stamp onto it as well. If you bridge some gaps using that, it means that you can stamp quite clearly. So there's that. And the last thing I used is these, and they are that pattern there, which gives the illusion of a torn edge. Now you can do it neatly. I actually didn't intend to do that one neatly, it just kind of happened, but you can just kind of, you know, hack it doesn't have to, that's really noisy, sorry. You don't have to, you know, be neat and precise with it. So yeah, sorry about the noise. Forgot how noisy parchment paper was. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is get all of that up the back out of the way. I'm just going to move my tray of inks as well because they're annoying, and get those out of the way as well because you're going to need a relatively open space, open surface to do this on. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to divide your papers into 2 lots of 3, and then we're going to glue down the edges. Now you can have it so that the rough edges stay towards the end, depends on how you're going to cut your board afterwards. Again, as I say, this is just how I do mine, but you do you. So I'm just going to do that, pop that on there. Doesn't have to be massively precise, it just needs to be overlapping enough that it's going to create a good contact. So then we're going to get our last one on that row. See, this really is so quick and easy to do, but I know that one of the comments was kind of about the design process of it as much as the actual like functional how-to, but just the functional eye thing. It doesn't matter if they're going upside down either, you know, don't worry about that. Because most of it's going to be covered up anyway, and the bits that do show through, well, it's fine if they're not facing the same way because your pieces of paper and scrap won't be anyway. So for the next one, we'll just kind of go along there. But yeah, it's like basically just asking if I could give a bit of insight really into how I make them. And the thing is, I come from a background of kind of like design and things like that for my job, and I've always been kind of keen on design as well. So I think I just kind of, I don't know, I just get an idea in my head and I just go with it. It's much like the photography that I do, that my husband always says like, oh, I've just got a really natural eye for it, whereas he has to kind of, you know, I was trying to teach him, well, I have taught him to do some photography, and he was basically saying about, you know, he kind of envies the fact that I can just pick up the camera, put someone in front of it and take a picture and it'll look cool, and I don't need to spend ages setting it all up and faffing basically. And I think it's very much the same for me with this kind of thing as well, is I don't really think about it, I just kind of do it. So I can't give much insight as to how I come up with what I do, but with this kind of thing it's a little bit easier because a lot of it relies on contrast and colour theory, which again is really easy when you know what you're doing really, which you will by the end of this. So the next thing to do is divide your scrap into bigger pieces and smaller pieces, because you want to start out with your bigger pieces that won't be staying, like they won't be staying really big or anything, but it just helps you to know what's where for the next stage. So I don't go crazy, you know, I don't sit and measure it. I just think, oh yeah, I'll put that in that pile. Some people go, oh, if it's smaller than X amount, then no, just eyeball it. If it looks small, then put it in the small pile. If it looks bigger, put it in the big pile. Don't worry about measurements. Okay, so what have we got? All right, yeah, okay. So it doesn't have to take long, you know, just, oh, that doesn't belong there at all, does it? And I said don't measure, but crikey. Okay, so yeah, you don't need to spend ages doing that. So the next thing to do is we're going to sort of take it down into usable size chunks, because I personally don't like to have too much of the same pattern in one place, because if I show you, for example, like these little scallop ones that I cut out, you know, there's a lot going on there. Whereas if I'd made it with big chunks, you know, that would take up the majority of something that size, and it's not what I personally want from a masterboard. So the first thing I do is, say, just kind of, and if it's big enough to get away with it, I keep like smaller edge pieces as well, because they're great for gap fillers. So we're just gonna, so just kind of these, if you haven't got any of these, you can pick them up so cheaply on Amazon, eBay, you know, Shine, AliExpress, all of those kind of places sell. You can buy packs. I bought a pack that's actually like loads of different designs, and it cost me about £7 or £8, I think it was, on Amazon. So, you know, it's really easy to find them. This, I'm going to kind of, I want some strips as well, because what you don't want is everything to be squares, because again you end up with shapes that are just too uniform. So, you know, you want some thinner strips, you want some squares, you want some bigger chunks, some circles. You know, if you've got like a circle punch and stuff, like some of those ones that I had were like things I punched out circles from. And obviously you keep the circles because you can use them, right? So that's what I did with them. So there we go. Let's if I just get a few of these done, and then I can take you through the process of, see, that's so cool, because that's these look like they're going to stick out like a sore thumb, but the one that I put in yesterday actually looked so good, because you wouldn't necessarily know. I'm going to see if I can find it now. That was one of them from this exact same page. So they don't stick out too much once they're actually in place. So that was nice. Let's have some of the green now, I think. It's great because you can just go at it, you know. It's quite therapeutic, actually. Just hacking at things rather than trying to be all nice and precise. You know, who wants to be precise anyway? So we'll just have a bit off of there. So I'm just going to I'm going to skip forward, and I'm just going to cut out some more of these shapes. Before I do that, there's something I did want to mention, if I can find a piece relevant. Okay, yeah, this piece is a good example. Okay, so some stuff is gonna, like this one, there's a focal point in the scrap, something that is just in and of itself. Those kind of things, try to work with them similarly to the quote on there, kind of thing. So something like this, you know, that little advert there, you know, is a great example of a focal point rather than just a pattern, you know. So we'll do the same with these ones as well. Excuse me. And if I can just, I must have another one here. It's got a good focal point on it, she says. Okay, what about over here? Yeah, okay, so clock, brilliant, that's a focal point. So again, just try to keep that kind of thing as, rather than cutting into it. So now I'll skip forward. Right, so I've hacked and slashed like a bit of a maniac, and here you can see I've got a real selection of sizes and some odd, you know, cut out shapes that I had already, you know, some thinner pieces, things like that. So the first thing to do now is to have a little look and see what the biggest pieces that you've cut are. Again, you don't have to be ridiculously precise, just pick out a handful of the bigger pieces, and then that will be your starting point. So okay, I'm going to pull out those ones, they can all go off to the side. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I figure out what I want to be as my starting piece, and which way round when it's double-sided card and you have to make a choice. And then whichever piece I'm going to put down, I ink the edges for definition now. I know a lot of people wait till they've got the masterboard put together and then kind of rub ink over it, but the way I do this and why I do it this way. You'll kind of see, again, let me pull these up. So I like being able to see little gaps and everything, and having the edges inked just helps to give it that little bit of a pop from the background kind of thing. So yeah, just lifts it up a little bit. So I have to keep pulling those over to show you things, really, don't I? Good lord. So yeah, first one, and then okay, we're gonna just throw some glue on that and then pop it in. You can meet the edges, you cannot meet the edges. There are no rules here. There are no rules on Becca's channel. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to go with a complementary but slightly contrasting. So I don't want to put things that look too similar together, because then you have no contrast, no definition. So the best thing to do is to pick something that works alongside it but isn't the same. So in this case, I'm going to have this one. I've nearly run out of this card. I loved this card. It was just one huge sheet of this. I think I'm going to have to just print some so I can have a bit more of it on this particular board. I just love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, so same thing again. So these, once you get going, once you've done some prep work, they come together really, really quickly. The key is not to spend too long faffing with it. Just go with it. Go, yeah, that's going to go there, and that's it. Commit to it. Just commit. Okay, so I didn't do the edges of that one. Let me just whip those off. Better. Can't be having any straight edges on here. Now, I know a lot of people, they do, you know, and I do more often than not when I've done masterboards in the past, I do use straight edges and I do overlap the pieces. But this time I wanted to do it a different way, and I was looking around just to see if anybody had, you know, particular ways of doing masterboards that just looked a bit different to the normal overlapped square edges, blah blah, and there aren't that many out there. So I thought, well, in that case then, whoops-a-daisy, I will make my own. And yes, I'm English and I said whoops-a-daisy. Anyone who's seen Love Actually will find that quite funny. Right, so now the other thing to remember is angles. So you don't want things that just follow the same line the whole way, because it becomes like a lot less interesting if you do that. So you kind of want to create breaks in that, you know, in that linear pattern. You don't really want that for something like this. So I'll just get these. I like doing it this way as well, because it means I can just ink a piece and then move on, because I do, and I'm sure some of you will already know if you've watched previous videos, I do absolutely detest inking. I find it so annoying. I know. Okay, that one's a bit too similar still, so we won't have that one. What about that one? So you see, that's when your gap fillers kind of come into play, and I'll bring that up and above there so that, again, it's not creating a line that way either. It's kind of, I suppose, a bit like brickwork, but you know, you don't want it to look as uniform as brickwork either. So it's all about the random messiness of it all. And usually I don't like random mess, but you know, when it comes to these things, I'm totally okay with it. My husband will tell you I'm an absolute dick for liking things to be just so. Okay, so let's have that one over there, then we'll put something else in that one. Okay, so again, contrasting but complementary, so it still remains visually interesting to look at. Not that anybody's really going to be studying it, but you know, that overall effect, because that was one of the things people were commenting on the most about these yesterday, you know, was that it looked so effective. And that's the point of it. That's why, You know, we don't make it, you know, just slap it on anywhere and that kind of thing. It keeps that pop. Let's see. Oh, that will work in there. Yep. And it's long enough to break that line. Okay, so we're going to have that one. So obviously, you know, yes, it does come together quickly, but it is a process. And I'm just going to talk you through like this first part of it, because just to give you insight into how I decide what goes where, you know, because you don't really need to watch me filling up all of this with pieces of paper and explaining why I think that piece should go there. You know, a few things I think is enough, right? It's just kind of works. Oh no, I can't have that there because that doesn't fit that line. See, I go to put something down and they go, nope, that's not suitable for this area. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to cut. I think I'm going to cut a piece of this one a little bit smaller. So about there should do it. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So yeah, just keep thinking about breaking lines, not creating a pattern of any kind, but stick with the, you know, the contrasting. Oh, that bit didn't want to come away. So we'll throw that in there. Let's see. What have we got? Oh, a nice bit of green in there, all really ping, won't it? So again, we're just gonna cut that one down. Yep, that's fabulous. So once I've got this kind of area in place, and feel free to just skip ahead now if you want to, by all means. Like I'm not holding anybody hostage here. But I was just gonna get this piece filled and then skip through and show you how to do the rest of it, really, because I'm just trying to think now. See, this is the thing, you have to think sometimes with design stuff. Yeah, okay. And I mean, even with my background, yesterday when I was doing this, I did actually think at one point, I don't know if this is going to work, but it all kind of comes together when you start aging it all and like distressing it all, kind of thing. It really starts to sing, much like when you're making, you know, like embellishments and stuff, and you kind of go, oh, this looks a bit boring, and then all of a sudden it just goes bang, because you just put that one thing on the top of it and it just works. You know, it's very, very similar to that, doing this stuff, which is quite great, really. Should have a little bit more of that one? Yeah, let's have a bit more. Oh no, it's actually a little bit too creamy there, isn't it? No, I want something. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to steal that bit of that because I can, because it's mine and I can do whatever I want with it. But you know, that is the beauty of this, is it is yours and you can do what you want with it. And obviously you can just make it all with, you know, exactly the same tones and colours as you want it. I've got my thumbs all black now. I should use tweezers or a thumb guard. I actually have a silicone thumb guard. But yeah, you know, it's one of those things that you might want to keep it all on exactly the same colour palette. You know, of like, just for instance, just golds and creams, or you know, just something like that, which, yeah, absolutely fine. I wanted to do something that matched the overall feel and colour range of the actual journal that I'm making the masterboards for, to make things to go in it, which is nearly done, by the way. I've just got to work on the cover, but it's one of those that an A4 cover is US letter size for my stateside friends, thereabouts, very, very close, not quite the same. It's a big space to fill, but I've managed to rope the husband into, just because I've probably said before, like, he's an artist, and I'm kind of roping him in and going, can you just help me by painting some stuff for me if I make the base shape, like, and put the details in place, can you paint them for me? Because oh my god, the way that man can paint things is just phenomenal. So it's like, I could do a half-assed job of it myself, but he'll do a good job of it. So it's like, yeah, okay. I'll let him do that one then. Okay, so you have to excuse my, I keep losing my voice today. I am aware that I keep going very, very croaky. What the hell is croaky when it's at home? Yeah, I keep going very croaky, and I keep losing it a little bit, so I do apologise if you're struggling to hear. Just turn your volume up to full if you can stand it. I hate trying to ink the edges of wallpaper. Detest that. It's worse than trying to ink anything else. It's a nightmare. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that in there, because on wallpaper you do need a lot of glue, otherwise it just lifts. In fact, I probably, let's see there, that's already lifting. I didn't put quite enough glue on that one because I forgot that wallpaper needs so much to stay down. Okay, just to stop it from slippy sliding all over the place. Okay, so let's get that gap and that gap filled with something, a little something. I might have a little look at my smaller scraps over here. Something like that would work quite nicely in that space, so we'll have that. Sometimes you don't want to like cut away too much of the design. What you can do there is just literally just nick at the edge rather than cutting all the way through it. You can just, and then just kind of pull away any little pieces that didn't actually cut, but it just tears it. If you've got a tearing ruler that's strong enough to work with card, obviously you can just do that. Just use your tearing ruler to do it anyway. But I don't have one, I just have the scissors. I keep meaning to make myself a tearing ruler because they're really easy to do, but I just keep forgetting. It's on the list, and you know when the list is just long, the list of things is bigger than me. So yeah, it's just got a bit much. Now I just want one more little piece to go in that gap there, but I feel like it should be something quite vibrant. Yeah, something that's got a bit of a bang to it. So we're just gonna steal that little bit. Just give that a good bit of glue. Chuck it in there. Obviously, it doesn't matter if some of your edges do overlap. I did actually do some overlapping on the other one, but just not very much, and not until the end, actually. Okay, that one will finish off that section quite nicely. So we shall get some ink on that. And then, as I say, we'll skip forward at that point. Oops. And hopefully you guys have kind of picked up the idea now of, you know, I mean, a lot of you watching are absolutely already going to understand colour theory, you know, sort of complementary colours that aren't the same kind of thing. And this doesn't stick to it to, you know, like a ridiculous extent or anything. It's just very basic colour theory of, you know, okay, these colours work together, these colours don't work together. So there we go. All right then, so I'm going to just sweep off all the little bits of crap that I've managed to get on there. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Just move that so you can see. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, they work like really nicely together. Let's just come out a little bit more. So now it's a case of fill up the rest of your paper in exactly the same way. Alright then, so this is the stage that we're at now, and I've picked out a few pieces that didn't fit anywhere on the board themselves, but that I'd still like to use somewhere, and this is a perfect time as well to fill any gaps that you're not happy about, if a gap's too wide, or if you know you have ended up with one line going straight somewhere, which I do try to avoid, but I got a bit carried away. So for something like that, I would then pop something over the top that's kind of, you know, contrasty again with what's underneath it, and will break that line up nicely. So I'm just really going to grotty that up because it's a bit too bright and there. So we're just going to kill that a bit, and then oh my god, look at the ink. Oh my life, it's going to need a proper toothbrush scrub on those before I go for dinner. Right, so we'll pop that down, breaks that line, gives even more contrast because obviously it's completely different to everything around it, so that's brilliant. Something like this one I would put maybe there, or maybe that obstructs too much of it. Yeah, actually there looks good. Alright, so I've just cut out, you know, just a few different size pieces, basically the same as you did with the rest of your scraps, and then just give those an ink. So find a place that you're kind of happy with, give it a good glob of glue, lump it down. So as you can see, once the glue is there, it does actually kind of make it a little bit less opaque. So it's there and it's kind of doing something, it's giving extra texture and what have you, but it's also just sort of muting it down a little bit so that when I stamp on that, it will really lift the stamps off the designs underneath. Alright, so that's your gluing done. So we can put the glue sticks away now and move on to the next stage. For now, I'm just going to sweep it all off to one side. Just gives me a bit more of a clear workspace now because I need to bring in my stamps and acrylic stamping blocks. So let's see, I liked the brick wall, I like some clocks, some random text and stuff, some numbers, some tickets. Yeah, so really now this bit is completely just whatever you want. I would say go for textures first before things like numbers and, you know, designs and stuff. You're better off going with texture first. So as you can see, that gives you just that really nice little effect going on there. So I've got my distress ink spray here, and I'm just gonna kind of hold it at a slight angle and over the top, and just kind of just press it lightly, because then you don't get like a big spray, you just kind of get a splatter. And then here I'm gonna give it quite a bit, and then I'm gonna kind of let that run down a bit like that, because that always looks kind of cool as well. I'm going to do the same round about there and let that have a little run. Needs a bit more, I think. There we go. Fabulous. You just give it a little shake and a wobble and a little tap, and then you can kind of guide where it goes. And oh god, if you can actually see that, sorry, that was completely off camera, wasn't it? I do apologise. Then you can take a brush or a cotton wool pad and a cotton wool stick, sorry, and just kind of drag, you know, some of that around to where you might like it to be, and just kind of dab bits as well in your gaps. Always looks kind of cool. Helps add to that, again, to that sort of grungy look and feel to it, without covering all of your actual pieces that you want to keep on there. Let's have another good bit there, and this time I'll do it so you can actually see it. So we're just gonna tap that, kind of nudge it, and that just coaxes it into going the way that you want it to go. Give it a little helping hand, and then that's kind of traveling around. So we'll just tweak the bits of that, stick a bit more down into the gaps. That's looking really nice and grungy now, isn't it? I like how that's looking. So we'll put a bit more up here. Just gonna, again now, just with the kind of softly press. It can be quite difficult to control that, but if you just kind of get it to the point where you start to feel resistance, just go that little tiny bit further, and then it just gives you that little spray rather than a massive coating. I think I blobbed a little bit too much ink on that one. I don't like how heavy that's sitting. So, oh, there we go, knocking things over again. So I'm just going to take a little piece here and just cover that a little bit, because, as I say, I'm just not happy with quite how savage it is, you know. I'm going to take some of the ink that hasn't dried yet and just kind of dab it on there, and then it still just fits in with the rest of it. So there you go. That is literally all I did to make the one that's already cut up. Now obviously at this point you can make the decision to cut it just into sections, or you can use some punches, like tack punches, any shapes. This is just like the scallop one that I showed you on the other tag. That's fine. I'm actually going to go to there with it. Excuse the noise. Oh, I missed the edge. How typical. Right, okay, but you get the idea. I should have pushed it further back, and actually I would have trimmed that off first as well, but you know, that's still fine. But yeah, if you wanted to cut it into the right size to go into here, which is all I did with these. I've got one that's got just a round circle, and I've got the one that makes this one. So they're all 1.5, 2 and 2.5 inches. So I just cut strips and just went for it, you know, and just made all different sizes of tags, and obviously the scallops, belly bands, and I did leave a couple of pieces for the journaling cards. So basically that was just like, you know, a section like that on the edge kind of thing. Obviously, as I say, I do trim the raw edges off usually, but that's up to you whether or not you want to do that. But there you go, guys. So that is the grungy steampunk related masterboard done. And as I say, you can go ahead now and add more to it if you want to, but that gives you the building blocks now to do the way that I did it, the way that was asked for a demonstration. So here you go. Look at the state of me. Oh, but before we go, I'm getting really close to 500 subscribers again, which is absolutely crazy, because it was literally only a couple of weeks ago that I did the giveaway for the 250 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do, and I will show you more things like this, I promise. If you already subscribe, I'm so grateful to all of you really for your support, so thank you very much. I hope that you've learned a new technique or something, or just maybe you can adapt an existing technique to suit what you want to achieve. But there you go. Have fun, guys, and happy crafting.